Hey folks, Corey here. Welcome back to my Imperial Fists hobby vlog. This will be update number 2, where I'll be working on the tactical Marines and updating their bases, putting in some color in their armor joints, a little bit of battle damage. So, little bit different style of video. I actually get some footage doing some of the work, so you'll be able to see that, kind of step you through what I'm doing. Hopefully you guys like it. So let's head down to the table and check it right out. So, upgrading the old miniatures. Like I said, I'm going to start with changing the base out to new 32mm bases. I'm going to get into the joints in the armor here with some black Templar contrast paint. On the shoulder pads, I'm going to add a squad marking on top of the tactical Marine marking. Joints on the back here too. And then if I'm feeling ambitious, probably add a little bit of battle damage using some Dorn Yellow and Rhinox Hide to the power armor. As I said, I've got 10 of these guys, so I'm going to try to do them in a batch. I'll show you what I'm doing with this guy the whole time, and then probably take a break in between to work through the other 10 and then come back to the next step. Okay, first things first, we've got to remove the old base. This guy might be a little bit easier because his stance leaves very little in the way of contact with the base. Some of the other guys, like this one though, who are more flat-footed, may be a little bit more difficult. I do know that I used plastic cement when I secured these guys to the bases, so they will be welded on pretty good. So initially, I'm just going to give it a quick little bit of pressure here, and this one's going to come right off. That was pretty easy. I'll just clean that up with a knife and grab the other base. So I've gotten about halfway through and I was able to pry them all off, but this guy's choosing to be a problem. So I just wanted to show you how you can use the cutters here to get in close, especially if you don't care about keeping the base, which I don't in this case. Try to really get in around that foot like that to try to break the base off. The concern, of course, here is that I don't want to ruin the miniature at all, because I've done a lot of work to it, and we're basically just going to keep it as is with a little bit of upgrades. So and then once you get, see that side's coming off a little bit, but we're leaving a little bit of the base behind, which is fine. We'll scrape that off with a knife. Now we'll get in real close. Almost kind of like pliers rather than just cutting. And again, same thing. Just being gentle so I don't ruin the model. And the good old number 11 blade. And there you go. Pretty much squared away. Maybe just a little bit more. So that's how you do a little bit more difficult base removal. And just to show you the size difference here, this is the old 25mm base and the 32mm base. If you guys aren't familiar with them, it's a sizable difference. Get a little bit more in the basing out of it. I said I'm just going to toss my old 25s here. I do have plenty of blank ones if I need them in the future. So I'll secure this down to the new base, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so now that I've got him on the new base there, I'm going to use some of the black Templar paint to get into all of the armor joints. Using a pretty small detail brush here. Of course, I just whacked it, so it's a little bit splayed, but we'll fix that in a minute. We'll get in on the armor joints here and here, and I'm actually going to put some across the middle here, the midsection, to kind of match what I did with the Assault Marines that I finished. We'll get up underneath the backpack too. So I'm going to get into that step, and we'll show you that when it's done. Okay, so as you can see here, now he's done with the flex joints there on the power armor. He's got an older style backpack. I picked out a couple of the hoses too. And the next step here is to get the squad marking, or the prep work, done for the squad marking here, if I can focus. There we go. So I'm going to put some hard coat over that whole area there. That's just to give transfer something to grab onto. So that'll be added to all 10 guys, and then we'll come back and start working on the base. So we're still drying a little bit there. As you can see, it's nice and glossy, though. That'll be good for the transfer here in the future. But next up, I'm going to move to the basing. Do a couple of things here. So this is going to be astrogranite debris from Citadel. Using it just like they show you how to use it on all their videos with their spreader tool, because it seems to work pretty well. But I've also got some smaller rocks that I put on. This is a Woodland Scenics product called Talus. It's gray. It's a nice neutral gray in this case. I will be painting it in a brown fashion, or shading it brown as a kind of a contrast or a complementary color to this gray texture paint. So that'll be the step. Now that's going to take a little while to dry afterwards. Just a note, I do use super glue to secure these down as I put the texture paint on. So and then what I'll do here to put a rock on is I'll actually go in here. I'll make a little bit of a hole, right like that. Put a dollop of super glue in there, and then secure the rock. A little bit easier than trying to move around not only the figure, but the rocks that are out there too. So there's the sergeant with all the astrogranite debris added and a couple of rocks. I picked out a bigger one since he's a sergeant for the front there. This will take a little bit of time to dry, but that's the nice thing about working in a batch. I'll go right through the rest of them, and when he come back to him, he should be dry and ready to move to the next step, which will be shading that base. Alright, so here's the base all dried out. We're ready for the next step. First is to shade it. I'm going to use Nuln oil here on the actual astrogranite debris. That will take that down a little bit of a tone, give it a real dirty look. And then I'll use the Agrex Earth Shade on the rocks, as I mentioned earlier, try to give it a little bit of a different tone. Once that is complete and dried out, I'll move on to a dry brush using the Terminator Stone paint over the whole thing, tie it all together, and then Abaddon Black for the rim. At the same time here, while the shades are drying, I will also put the transfers on for the squad marking. I think you can see them there. Little Roman numeral 1, and that will go right over the arrow for the tactical squad. So I'll put some pictures up here as I get through stuff and show you it when it's then complete. Alright, so while I was shading there, I did make a couple of blunders, and so I decided I am going to do battle damage. So you can see right there on the kneecap, a little bit of shade got on there. So rather than trying to build the yellow back up, I'm going to go in and add the damage. And for that, I'll use Monoxide and Dorn Yellow. Now those guys are all up to date and ready for the tabletop. I do have one more squad of 20 to do in the same fashion. I'll get those at some point in time in the near future. But I do have quite a few projects over there on the workbench that I need to get done. You know, my challenge was still left open from the summer, and all that new stuff that I picked up not too long ago. So haven't decided what I'm going to work on yet for the next hobby project, but probably something yellow. Stay tuned for the next vlog update for my Imperial Fist, and you'll see what I picked. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.